All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Stock Analysis Friday on this October 3rd. Hope everybody's doing well out there. All right. Just a quick audio check. You guys let me know if you have any issues with the audio during the presentation or visually if something happens, you can't see the screen or something. Just let me know because usually I'm the last one to know if something's going wrong. So that's very helpful. All right. So purpose of Stock Analysis Friday is for me to analyze stocks that you may be interested in or ETFs. Perhaps you got a call from a broker, some certain stock that he wanted you to think about. Bring it here. We'll take a look at it to see if the timing is good on something like that. Also, too, I'm going to go through a few administrational items here and talk a little bit about some of the risks involved in trading because you need to understand those. And also realize that there are risks in trading the financial markets. Past performance doesn't guarantee future performance. I think by now we all know that, but I do have to state that. And also to always trade or invest with money you can afford to risk, called risk capital. That's important. Any ideas or suggestions we talk about here, or even stock picks that we talk about, run those by your financial advisor to be sure they're suitable for you. I don't know your personal situation, and they certainly should and could help you and give you the A-OK on those. What else can I tell you? All right, we deal in a realm of probabilities. So not every trade or investment we take is going to work out. So that's why you have to always take into account the risk. If you need help with risk and risk control, I've got 2 great books dedicated to it. But my latest book, The Art of Trading, came out in January, and that pretty much contains everything you need to know to get started in the financial markets. That was published by Wiley, and it's done really well. You can check it out. I'll put a link in the recording below for that. Let's see what else. I've got Elliott Wave Technique Simplified as well. That's out there as well for you. And also, too, we have software, too, on our website, and you're going to see me use that today. So I just like to run that by. And then also, too, I want to talk to you a little bit about the overall markets. And one of the things that we have that can really help you is called the MOR report. And we go in and dissect basically all the major indexes. That includes the NASDAQ, the S&P, the Dow. We also take a look at Bitcoin, which, by the way, is up around 120, almost 121 right now. So getting closer and closer to our target. And then we also take a look at the real estate market, too. And so the markets in general are at a pretty significant level right now. And I think it's important you realize that and have some exit plans in case the market turns south. We think it's got a little bit more room to go. But that's what the MOR report's all about. It's to keep you informed on a weekly basis. And of course, we have a huge report that we put out on Sunday to prepare you for the upcoming week. And also, too, we have a video that goes along with it and our stock picks. And then finally, give us a like, okay, here on the video. That helps our standing. All right, let's jump in and see what's out there today. Welcome, everybody. All right, so by the way, this is the video that I have in front of you here. This is one that we really liked a lot, and it's reaching its target. I don't recommend buying it yet right now because it's too late. The recommendation was back on the Elliott Wave 4. So let me just go over that with you. This is the weekly chart. This is the daily chart. So when we look at charts today, you're going to see these two charts. These are all our indicators down here on the chart, as you can see on both charts. And in terms of Elliott wave, which is a form of technical analysis that assigns waves to trends, this was a 3, this was a 4, and look at the 4 ended in the perfect area of the retracement. And using the oscillator below, which is what we call the owl, you can see this was labeling a 3 here, 4 here, 5. You always have bearish divergence between 3 and 5. And here's the fib extension target zone for 5. So we're there, okay? And it's been a great trade, and I hope everybody got into that because we did talk about it here on Stock Analysis Friday back in the spring. Okay, so let me jump in here. Ed, I think you're the first one up today. How are you? All right, VEEV. Let's take a look here, okay? All potential buys. Okay, let me just see how this is looking. All right, so this looks like now it has moved off its bottom that also occurred back actually quite a while ago, back in 2023. So it's been moving up for quite some time. Daily chart's a little messy, Ed, okay? So you're going to have to give this stock quite a bit of room. Obviously, it's in an uptrend, but you can see there's swings from 248 to 202, pretty significant swings, about 25% swings. So that's kind of significant. In terms of where I think this thing is going, I think I'll draw some fib extensions on this because I think probably we're looking probably right around the 354 to 478, and we're at 295. So you got a little bit more room to the upside. I guess if you put your stop somewhere in the 258 range, you've got a little bit of a 2-to-1 to get into that target. Okay, so because of the volatility on the daily time frame, it's not my favorite. Okay, I like something a little smoother, but it does look like it's heading on up. All right, okay, TA. Let's take a look at that one. Okay, so this is one we looked at before. And what we had here is we had on the right-hand side chart, so the weekly chart over here. Okay, we have, let me just restart my pointer. Give me 1 second. Okay, all right, so we had a fair value gap here on the actual weekly chart, right? So I kind of want prices to get above that. We also came close enough to the fib retracement that we may be heading down at this point. So we have a green PTF over here in the daily. So this is kind of indicating that we probably are going to go back into the target zone before heading down. So a long trade here could be considered at this point. You've got some resistance to get to that target zone up here, and that's the bearish fair value gap. So that's the only issue that would keep me from doing this, okay? You've got a pyramid trading point entry on the daily chart, so you can put your stop under there, but you've got all this, you got a gap here. You've got quite a ways, quite a bit of headwind, so to speak, to get into that upper level target zone. So for that reason, I probably would say no on that one. All right, let's take a look at SE here. All right, heading in the right direction, certainly bullish. We have no green PTFs. We've had 1, 2, 3 pyramids in a row. I would wait for a significant pullback on this. You've had 1 push, 2 pushes, 3, almost 4 pushes up. And so that's usually you're getting into the mature part of a trend, and we've got now a red owl showing up on the daily chart. So we've got this showing up. We had divergence. We had quite a few pushes up here. And so I would not go into this. Okay. So all three of those, I'm out. Okay. So as Mr. Wonderful says on the shark episodes, I'm out. All right. So I wouldn't take that one. Okay. All right. Gene's putting a link up here in the chat for, what is that for? Our books. Okay. Thank you, Gene. So that'll take you to our Amazon page. All right. Let's take a look at some more here. VITL. VITL. All right. So this one's pulled back. Potential buys. Okay. So this one actually I like better than the other ones because you're not getting in at an upper level. You're waiting for the pullback. So you got the pullback. I like that. You have a reversal bar this week forming. So I'm liking that. You had one form and hit on the actual daily chart, and you filled the fair value gap over here. So if you just take a moment here, you can see where you had this fair value gap here, okay? And then you also had an order block probably down somewhere in here. So that those don't always get hit. But it filled the fair value gap, bounced off it, so I'm liking it. So if you wanted to take an early entry, you could. You could also wait until this week closes out and early next week put a buy above the bar on the weekly chart. All right, wait for prices to get above that. So put a buy one tick over that and put your stop at below the order block here on the weekly. Okay, that way you got enough room for these things to go ahead and do what we expect them to do, which is to make another high. Okay, so your target is going to be the PTF target of 53 on that one. So VITL, I'm actually going to put down as a buy because it did trigger on the daily chart. So that's a good one. All right, EXAS. Thank you, Ed, on that one. All right, good job. Let's see what we got cooking here. All right, so we've got a bullish PTF on the weekly. We still have an active pyramid that has not yet been stopped out bearish on this chart here. So we kind of got to get over that. We kind of are in a situation here, and I'm going to do a couple things here. One is I'm going to draw kind of a channel that we're in here. I got to be honest with you, I don't like buying in the upper ends of a channel because this is a range, and most range breakouts fail. All right, 80% of them until they've been ranging for at least 4 points. Now, what's a point? Well, that would be here. Here would be a point 1 because it started here. 2, 3, 4, and then after that, you usually see some type of break. So I kind of, and that's quite a range. Okay, that's a pretty big range. Now, if it breaks out here and keeps going, great, but the odds are not in our favor for that. So for that reason, and the fact that we have an active P pyramid that's negative on the weekly chart would keep me out of that one. I like VITL much better. All right, DKNG. DKNG, let's see what we got cooking there. All right, so this one had a big sell-off this week, okay? Red PTF, green PTF. I don't think the sell-off's done, all right? Let's see how far down it is going to go. Is it going to take out the equity down here that formed on basically June 2nd? We'll have to see. I think it's going to. So let's take a look at that next week, okay? All right, thank you. So out of all those, Ed, I think VITL is an excellent one, okay? Jim Blue, good morning. All right. Hey, the day trading room is waiting for you. Come on back. All right. Lowell, good to see you too. All right. Ed is back with Netflix. Good job on the picks, Ed. Let's see what we got here on Netflix. So this would be potential longs. All right. It's too late. In fact, we're actually going to probably be looking at an area to buy down in 890 to 614. I think at this point here, all right, it's too extended. You know, maybe it'll reverse and go up. We got a green PTF, but I've seen those green PTF remain green even during some profit taking. So I think at this particular point, there's more risk going long than sitting it out and trying to get a better price later. All right, let's take a look at SHOP. Now, I do think the overall markets are getting to critical levels. I don't think we're there yet, but I do think we're getting closer and closer. So you got to be really careful on your stock picks. And if they're extenuated, you know, it makes sense because the market is reaching new highs towards the end of the year here. All right, so we got SHOP again, same reason, just overextended. It's too late in the trend, in the uptrend to get going on these. PDYN. Okay, so this had, we looked at this, I'm not sure if it was last week, but I think it was, because we had a bull flag set up. So I said if it broke the bull flag, we go with that, and it certainly did. So this one here is looking pretty good. We got a nice move up off here. May get a little bit of a pullback on the weekly chart, but we have a green PTF on both on the weekly. We no longer have it on the daily for right now because that just turned yellow. So I'm thinking pretty good here. I think you got to put your stop. You know, you can put your stop below the bull breakout. I'm kind of thinking here we'll probably see a little resistance here, up here as well. And that's not quite the high over here. So that's here. But I think this one's okay. So PDYN, the stop's got to go below this pyramid. So it's 698. So pretty far away stop. Or you can put it up under here at 821. This probably makes more sense. So 821 would probably be the best place for your stop. Okay, unless you want to use an option. That's another option. All right, so looking good. All right, Lowell, how are you? Okay, looking for long entries. Okay, NLY. Okay, so this was one we were kind of holding off on a little bit here because we wanted to see what would happen when it got down to the order block, and it went right through it. Okay, so it went all the way down into this fair value gap here, which is kind of interesting. But if you take a look at this, watch this. So if you take a look at this, you got a high there, and you got structure there, and you had another order block here to here. So it kind of stopped it right there, and then it moved off its bottom. So that was kind of interesting. All right, I would have expected this to stop here, but we took out equity up here. So they drove it pretty far down. All right, what's the scenario now? All right, I don't like the red PTF on the weekly chart. That kind of puts a stumbling block on any long trade. So I think at this particular point here, I would not do anything with this. The other problem we may have is we saw a little bit of rejection today. At least we're seeing it somewhat at the area here, which was the order block. So I'd like it to get above there. So let's take a look at it next week, and we'll have a pretty strong owl to the downside. So I'm going to say no go on this one. Okay. There's too many issues that could go against you. So AGNC. By the way, I'm going to come out with a course because I've been asked to do it on price action. Okay, and how to add that to using the ART software along with any other studies you may use. All right, price action is really important because it can add an extra layer of confirmation before actually taking a trade. All right, so let's take a look at this one here. Again, red PTF on the weekly. So any long-term trade aspects go out the window with that. We've got a green PTF on the daily after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pyramids in a row over here on this chart here. So again, I would not do this one, okay? EFC, let's take a look at that one. Okay, so Green PTF, okay, good on that one. No longer a red PTF, no longer a bearish pyramid. So that's a good sign too. So let's see here. PTF target is only up to this area here, not so much. And boy, there's not a lot of history on that either. Okay, so here's the thing. If you look at the weekly chart, okay, we got some pyramid entries, but I don't like to take them inside a channel. All right, so if we draw the channel on this, it's kind of like this. Now, what I want to point out here is that, what did I tell you before about channels? 80% of the breakouts fail. And notice what happened. We got up, this looked like a really good breakout, and then boom, it reversed. Okay, and that is so typical when you're in a range. That's how you know you're in a range. All right, so there are traders that actually just trade ranges. When they know they're in the ranges, you can use the 2Bs and the 1Bs at the outer edge of the range, which is part of our software, Yard software. So you don't take the pyramids inside the range, okay? But wait for the breakout and then wait for the first pyramid after the breakout, okay? That's how you do that. All right, now on this trade here, there's nothing screaming out for a long position here. So again, I would put this on a watch list, and let's see if we get a breakout from the channel. So you certainly could do that. I'll put it on the watch list here and keep an eye on that, but I would not enter that at this point, okay? All right, thank you, Lowell. All right, Stuart. Hey, Stuart, good to have you here. PFE, healthcare. All right, PFE. Let's see how we're doing here. All right, I assume buying's on this. Hopefully you're already long, okay? But actually, all right, so what I like about Stuart is he looks for turnarounds after a big movement in one direction, okay? And he certainly has found one here. So on the weekly chart looks a lot better than the daily chart, simply because you feel like you're getting in near a high up here. You are, okay? But here's the thing. You have a classic, look at the fair value gap here and here, and you have one here and here. That's extremely bullish. The problem is markets have a tendency to come back down into those before again continuing the trend. So you got to be careful here. We have kind of an indecision bar here. You may have one more leg up. We'll have to see how that closes today. But usually when you look at a chart like the daily chart in terms of price action, most of the traders would be looking for a buy in this area. Here, let me just draw it in a gray block. All right, so they'd be looking for a buy in this area here, because this is the fair value gap area. And you got two, which makes it even a little more tricky, right? So we got one there, and then we have actually one from here up to here, right? So you got kind of like two, all right? And I think probably most of the professional traders will shoot for the lower fair value gap, okay? So it would be in this area here. And then, of course, you got the order block sitting right under here, okay? So the idea is that when you have a fair value gap, you have a lot of orders that missed. So the market, being an auction, usually returns to grab those orders before continuing the trend. So that's the thought basis. So if I look at that daily chart, I'd probably wait for the pullback. Now, if you look at the weekly chart, all right, and you can, and this is going to be something you're going to be in it for a long time, you can go in it now. All right, and then put your stop either at the very bottom, okay, or at the pyramid. So it depends on if you're long-term or short-term. All right, they're definitely both a buy. There's no question about it. The question is, are you going to wait and for the pullback and then go in and get in $3 less than 27, or are you going to be a long-term trader here and say, I don't care about the $3. I'm going in because I don't want to miss it, and try to get it up into the 35 to 40 range fairly quickly. So I'm going to put this one down as a buy, and I'm with the caveat of whether you're long-term or short-term, depending on how you want to approach it. Okay. Good one, Stuart. All right, Merck. I imagine probably most of them are going to be very similar All right. And sure enough, here we go. Same reasoning behind Merck. Okay. All right. No red PTFs. And we finished a nice breach to the downside. So there you have it. Okay. So I'll put Merck on too with the same caveat. All right. And UNH. Okay. A little different, but bullish nonetheless. This one, okay, Stuart, has a red PTF, and that kind of throws a little bit of a downer into the scenario. And it certainly is retraced nicely. I love the breakout. I think it's still moving up. So the way you would read this is from left to right, okay? The daily chart here is what's going to happen sooner than the weekly chart. So it looks like we're going to go up a little further, probably fill this gap completely, okay? Maybe even go up a little higher than that, maybe 450 possibly, which would be a good short-term trade to the upside. Then I think we're going to see some headwinds and a move back down. So I'm thinking long-term, because this is red, and if it stays red, we're probably going to go into a little bit more of a retracement into these bearish fair value gaps in here, okay? I'll just draw one of them in right here so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. So there's one there for the most part, okay? So maybe it will get into that area before selling off. But here's the issue. There's also some equity sitting down here. And I wouldn't be surprised, since we have a bearish PTF on that weekly chart, that eventually the market returns and takes that equity out, okay? So you could take this short term to the upside. Long term, be careful, okay? I'm not going to recommend this one because actually this is fairly extended on the daily chart, so I'd even wait for a pullback probably on that daily chart, okay? So that one I do not like as well as the others. All right, Lowell, you are very welcome. All right, Ed, let's see what we got here. QSG, whoops, QSG. All right, so not a super lot of history on this one. All right, we've looked at this one before. So what's interesting is we came down into this order block here. All right, it went right through and filled all the orders in the fair value gap. All right, we have another fair value gap sitting in between these two gray lines. But we did have some rejection. We have green, 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 a lot of green. We need a turnaround now. This is kind of like, the crypto market, which turned around greatly. This is same type of thing. It needed to turn around in the crypto market. It did it. So it looks like our forecast for the end of the year is going to be correct on cryptos. Again, we cover that in the MOR report if that is of interest to you. So to me, this looks pretty good. You're getting in after a pullback. I probably would do this. I don't think I'd enter today. Let's see how today's price bar closes. And if we have more wick than body here, I'd put a buy above this, okay? And I put my stop probably right below the wick, okay? Because if it goes down there, then it's probably going to go for a little further down. And then we'll wait for another turn up if that happens. But yeah, I would put a stop to enter right above here. I'm not going to put that on the buy list yet because it's not quite ready, okay? We have to wait until next week, till Monday. But I'm going to let you know that's how I would play that, okay? All right, and you're down 11%. So you've suffered through this pullback. So I would hold on to it for right now. You're close to these areas, order blocks that should hold, okay? And then anybody buying it new, put your entry one tick above that, okay? All right, let's see, OPFI. Okay, OPFI. Let's see what we got there. Long. Okay, so you're up 3% on this one. All right, first of all, green PTF. That's good. All right, let's do a little fib analysis on this weekly chart. And I'm going to call this a 2. So we pretty much hit the fib retracement nicely, right? Let's remove that and grab that. That's the target. So the target for the PTF is also this line here, okay? So that fits right into that. Okay, so there you have that. Still a red PTF, okay? I would probably, you're up 3% already. So let's see where we have structure to stop this thing. All right, well, right away, I can tell you we're in a fair value gap right now, okay? So that's off to there and there. All right, so seeing a little resistance. We have an order block below that. If you're new on this one, what I would do on this is draw a trend line, wait for a break above the retrend line and a rejection of the fair value gap. All right. If you have order flow, you can also look on order flow for trapped sellers. Okay. You can see trapped sellers in order flow, and they're usually trapped in a big wick, okay, to the downside. So in any case, let's see. This is still not a lot of wick on this bar here. So we need to see some bullish rejection off this level before we get too excited about it, okay? But I think it looks pretty good for a possible bottom down here, provided it rejects off this area, okay? So that's OPFI. So I guess I would hold it right now, all right? And, you know, if you want to have a stop area, put it below the order block, right down in here. I can tell you what I've experienced lately, at least on the smaller time frames for the NASDAQ, you know, the 2 to 5 minute time frames. They've been running those fair value gaps completely, whereas that was different a few months ago, you know, half a year ago. They weren't running them completely, but they're going right down and testing the order blocks. So a lot of the strategy would be put your stop right under this long bar here that maps out the fair value gap. But if you do that, they're stopping you out on that, and you put it down here a little further and you have a better chance of staying in, okay? So I'm sure that may apply to longer time frames, but I have not tested it. All right, Lowell, let's see what we got. JOBY, let's see, JOBY. Okay. All right. Green on the PTFs. Liking it a lot. I think we're still in a wave 3 on the weekly because we haven't gone red. I think we've completed the minor pullback before inside wave 3 on the weekly. So, you know, if you were looking at the weekly, the 3 target would be up here, but they're waves inside waves. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4. We're probably going up on the 5th wave now. Okay, that type of thing. So we go down the lower time frame. This is clear. This is 4, 3, working on 5. You can literally count the Elliott waves using the owl when it's this clean. So 3, 4, A, B, C. All right, long trade, okay. Let's get a target. Give me 1 second. Okay, so target on this is 22.65 to 28.75. So you still got a nice room. Put your stop. Let's see if there's any. This is, again, where price action can help. All right. Do you put your stop under the first pyramid or maybe the second one? Well, let's see if there's any fair value gaps. You got a fair value gap right at the base of that. Do you have one earlier on? No. You should be able to put your stop below this order block here. Okay. So I would put the stop a little lower here. The bottom of the pyramid here is still in the fair value gap. Okay. So there's a chance of getting stopped out there. All right. So I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to put this down as a buy. All right. And this is exactly why I'm saying the market top is not in yet. Okay. Look at all these possibilities. All right.
So that is JOBY. Good job, Will, on that one. Okay, AV. Except I got to spell it right. AV. There we go. Let's see. Yep. All right. Let's see what that pulls up. All right. Well, yeah, looks good, but it's too far away for us now. Okay. The owl turned yellow on the PTF on the daily. All right. So, you know, the PTF on the daily would have had you in a lot earlier, you know, down after this correction here. Okay. Could have gotten in down in here after that 50% correction there. So that would have been the place, 149. And that would have been a great trade. All right. So, too late. Okay. I'm not saying it's not going higher. And we're getting closer to maybe this run here could be the new wave 3 because it's almost exceeded, the owls almost exceeded the high of the printed wave 3 back in earlier this month, in July rather. Okay. So my problem with this is that, you know, you're buying at the wrong time. Okay. Wait for a pullback. And let's put this on a watch list, because if we get the pullback and we can still get in on the wave 3 on the weekly, that would be a very powerful move. But I just don't want to chase it. Okay. And that's me. All right. All right. Oh, Gene's got a note here. Thank you so much for all your wonderful likes. Hey, Gene, do you have a link for the MOR report? I saw you got one for the trading books. But if you have one for the MOR report, put that up there. If she doesn't have that, then we'll post that in the recording area when we post this on YouTube. All right. Anybody out have anything else? Good session today. Wow. You guys are great. All right. Okay. UNG. Frank, UNG is not quite ready yet. Okay. Frank wants to go long on UNG. Not quite. And the reason for this here, okay, is we had a move up, but we really didn't have, we have a change in structure. Okay. A change in structure versus a break in structure are different. So the change in structure here, what I'd like to see is one more high and take this level out here. Okay. I guess maybe possibly yesterday we had a little change in structure, break in structure, but we had a reversal. So when you're talking about change in structure, you take a look at the minor trend, which is this. This is the major trend, right? So a change in structure is when you have that. Okay. You have a break above previous high on the minor move. Okay, that's called a chain in structure, chalk. Break in structure is when you actually start taking out key levels on the trend down. All right, that's a quick way of knowing it. For example, like maybe this, some people would consider this a break in structure because we went above this little point here. Some people may want to see something like this way up here first, because that's a major point. On the weekly chart, you haven't had any break in structure yet at all. Okay, so I think at this point, let's give it another little bit more time. I'd like to see a continuation up from this. My other concern here is you had an ABC or 1, 2, 3 pattern, and usually after that, if this is a corrective pattern only, you'll see a move down. Okay. So move back up would indicate the possibilities of the new trend. A move down would indicate that this is just a correction in a downtrend, you know, and this is price structure, what we're talking about. And this is the course that I'm going to put together that drills all these different, you know, methodologies that can help you in your trading, regardless of the software you're using. Okay. All right. And so Gene's posted a link here for the MOR report. And, oh, and Ed, thank you for saying that. Okay. Yeah, I think it's an excellent report. I mean, I put it out every week and along with a video. So, and we cover the major indexes, Bitcoin, and the real estate market. So the idea is that when the market flips, you're not going to be left on the sidelines. Okay. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for your picks today. Awesome job. And we'll be back next week. And you guys have a great weekend. Hard to believe it's October already, right? We're going to be sitting down for Thanksgiving and before the blink of an eye here. Unbelievable how fast time goes. But anyway, great to have you here. Let me just go over really quick the picks for today. So we had VITL, PDYN, PFE, MRK. So we had the major pharmaceuticals, JOBY. Those are all good stocks for today. On the watch list, we got EFC and AVAV. So remember to bring those back next week for some help. All right, Ed, thank you. Thank you for being here. You are what makes it a great class. Okay, so have a great weekend, everybody. And we will see you next week. Okay, don't forget, give us a like before you leave. We appreciate that. And that's it. So have a good weekend. We'll see you next week.